Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to the Treaded Path podcast, the podcast from Kufi Productions, where we explore the inspiring journeys of Muslim professionals across diverse industries. I'm your host, Salman Hasan, and each week we sit down with remarkable individuals who are making their mark in their chosen fields. We highlight their successes and challenges in their journey, examine any corporate accountability within their industry, and offer any actionable advice on career advancement, ethical navigation to those who want to tread that path. And as a reminder to our listeners, you can find the show notes, resources, and ways to connect with our guest speakers in the Tread the Path archive in kufiproductions.com. So today I'm honored to be joined by Nimrah Riaz. Nimrah is the founder of Siraat, a values-driven platform bringing faith, culture, and professional growth for Muslims navigating modern industries. Her work centers on creating spaces where Muslims can thrive authentically, whether through faith rooted community experiences, inclusive sports partnerships, or leadership development. She is also the mind behind Muslim Organization for Sports, Socials, and Education, which is an initiative that has been redefining the Muslim experience in American sports, partnering with major teams within the NBA, NFL, MLS, and FIFA. So with that, Nimrah, assalamu alaikum, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Walaikum assalam. Jazakallah khair for having me.
The pleasure, honors mine, alhamdulillah. So before we dive into your story, tell me, what's your favorite sport and who's your favorite team in that, or pro team in that sport?
I have to say I'm more of a basketball person, and I've always loved the Rockets. So I'm definitely a Houston Rockets fan. I'm from Houston, so I have to
Sure.
honor my whole team.
You
But
have to
honestly,
rep
just from the Hakeem Olajuwon days, it's what you grew up on.
Tracy McGrady. Is that,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's your guy?
No, Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh, Hakeem. Yes,
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 the
yes.
OG. Yes, yeah. How could I forget? No, that's a given for sure. But no, that's fun. That's really good. Before we move forward, can you give our listeners a brief overview of what you do in your current role today?
Sure. So, in my role in Siraat, I assist with different league organizations such as NBA, MLS, NFL, and now FIFA, and some other teams that are coming up or other leagues that are coming up in the horizon, and how to authentically engage the Muslim population. Muslims love sports. It's like one of the most halal funds we can have in the country we live in. That doesn't include, something that's prohibited.
Yeah,
So, and it's a fun way to bring kids out and family out, and honestly, just the whole pathway from playing sports and then just watching sports, I think is really ingrained in the Muslim culture and Muslim lifestyle here in the US. So taking that, I started working first actually with the Rockets and authentically engaging the Muslim community in ways that didn't just feel like, they're checking a DEI box, but a way that brought in the Muslims that they felt that they were welcomed and included in the festivities, but also in a way that, the Rockets gave back. And alhamdulillah, this is going to be our 17th season with the Rockets to do
alhamdulillah.
something similar. Yeah. And of course, alhamdulillah, it took notice. So now it's like a league wide movement. Now I've been helping consulting with other teams who want to do something similar. We started one at the Washington Wizards. The Detroit Pistons are also doing one. I've seen it all across the Warriors, Miami Heat, and inshallah, we'll hit all the teams one day.
Inshallah.
But from that, other sports leagues took notice. So NFL, MLS, they wanted me to come out and do something similar for them too. So that all being said, I was like, oh, so I had all this under a nonprofit MOS, which you mentioned, the Muslim Organization for Sports, Socials, and Education. And I was doing this work under there, but then I was like, let me try to. So that's where I started my consulting company, Siraat, creating that path between the sports teams and then the Muslim audience. And then hopefully one day I grew it. I aligned it in a way where I could hopefully, inshallah, grow it one day to align other companies who want to authentically engage with the Muslim community. And not just leave it to sports, but right now my focus is in sports.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, no, I'm sure your services would span beyond sports, the sports realm, if you will. But definitely, there's a huge need for creating authentic and inviting Muslim experience within the sports arena, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's football, basketball,
Sure.
soccer,
Yeah.
whatever the sport may be, and now cricket. I'm sure
Yeah.
cricket is really huge in Texas, especially. So, we'll definitely need a lot of help
Mhm.
there. Can you give us some examples of like what kind of experiences that, that you're talking about that you've helped
Yeah.
create with the Rockets, for example, or the Wizards?
Yeah, sure. So with The Rockets, I can just walk through what a typical Muslim family night out, which is what we call the experience or the day that we do. It's called Muslim Family Night. And from the beginning, so we are able to go watch the players practice beforehand. So before the arena even opens up to the or we get special access to go down and watch them practice. And then throughout the game, we have a prayer space that we are able to access. And
Nice.
it's because one of the prayers always ends up falling during the game time. And I pitched it to first the Rockets, like, hey, you have 1,000 Muslims coming in the arena. When Maghrib hits, you're going to have every one of them trying to find a place to pray. And even if it's at the stairwell or in the middle of the hallway, it's going to create a safety hazard for y'all. So give us a room where we can keep a dedicated space
That's
and
smart.
then, keep it out of sight also for us also just to feel more safe to pray. So yeah, so they've been really nice about it over the past few years. We have had like a special access pass that we go and access one of the conference rooms, go do our prayer, and then come back down to enjoy the game. So, um, and honestly, that kind of just extra level, I feel like has helped a lot of Muslims. Like, okay, I need to pray. Like, we are most of our Muslims are really good about trying to pray on time.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
So that's one thing we've been able to implement. And then the other thing as of the last few years is we've been able to bring in halal food vendor. That's so we don't have to eat pizza and like nachos. So like, if
Yeah.
you're gonna be out for 5 hours, you can get a proper meal in. So alhamdulillah, we were able to a local vendor here in Houston has partnered up with them and we bring him out every year for games. And then we also during halftime do a halftime recognition. So what I do is I poll the community, can you please nominate 5 individuals that you think have made an impact in the Muslim community here in the Houston or greater Houston area? So the community gets engaged, they nominate, and then those 5 get selected. They get brought down during halftime, been shown on the Jumbotron, get a whole shout out from the arena host. Like, these are our Muslim all-stars. Everyone's cheering for them. So it's a really cool experience for them. And then after the game so the past few years, we've been bringing out guest speakers to do a interview on the court, with whichever guest we usually bring out. So the first year we brought out Hakeem Olajuwon, of course.
Of
Second
course.
year we brought out Hakeem Olajuwon and Mo Amer. He's a Palestinian comedian who also has a Netflix show, so he came out. Last year we brought out Hakeem Olajuwon and then Aziz Al-Shahir. So Aziz plays for
Nice.
the Houston Texans NFL team. And this year our game is on in April, so 4 months. I have 4 months to figure out who I'm gonna bring out. I feel like every year I have to one up myself.
Right.
Inshallah will bring someone else out, and it's just a cool way to get access to the lower level seats and access to someone
Sure.
who's
Yeah.
Muslim identified, but in the space to them speak to the audience for Q&A. And the Rockets are really generous, and they give us a bunch of, like, stuff to give out, and it's just a fun experience altogether for once a year that we do the Muslim Family Night. And alhamdulillah, over the past few years, we've hit almost up to 1,200 attendees, so it's been growing,
Nice.
every year. So that's the plan, the outline of it in a nutshell. So now it's just about copying, pasting where it fits for other teams. So for example, like with the Wizards, what they were able to do that I'm actually trying to do here for the Rockets next year is got access to a merchandise item that it's like exclusively with like a Muslim-esque Arabic calligraphy on it, but it also has the
Sure.
Wizard logo on it. So it's like a unique
Nice.
item that you get to like wear or hat. So the Wizards did a bucket hat and then the first year, and then this year they did a Hawaiian shirt. But it has that element of like, Arabic calligraphy or something with the logo. So it's a
Sure.
really unique item that, it's not available anytime else. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done with it. Different teams do different things. Like when I did stuff with the NFL team, it was different. When I did stuff with MLS, it was different. But I always try to at least ask for halal food and prayer space. Those are the main 2 that I start with, and then we build from there.
Yeah, I all the examples that you provide here are such great ways to not only being able to improve the Muslim experience within sporting events, but from a fan base perspective, you've also secured that for whichever team that you're collaborating with or working
Yeah.
with, right? So I'm
Yeah.
sure the Rockets really appreciate that, right? And the Wizards
Yeah.
or whichever team.
Yeah.
I think it just works both ways too, right? Like this will keep on going, because I'm sure every team, every professional team, they'll want to secure more and more fan bases and increase their
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a ticket price for them, right? That's another person that's coming
sure.
into their doors. But I also pitched it to them like the tool that I use when I pitch my stuff to the teams to why you should have a Muslim family night. From their lens, like you're creating a fan tunnel. So the first person that comes in, usually like some of these games we have like aunties come out, right? Like people who've never been to a game before.
Yes.
So they
Yes.
get exposed. They're like, "Oh my gosh, this is actually really fun." Then they're like, "Okay, let's bring our family out." And then the next time they come out, they'll bring more tickets. They'll buy more tickets, right? So that one ticket converted to like 5 tickets. They're like, "Oh,
Right.
we love this so much. You wanna become fans? Let's buy the merchandise." So then they buy the merchandise, and then they become maybe 5 years down the line, they become season ticket holders, right? So for them, I'm getting them in the door for them, one step at a time, and it's creating this funnel of fans that they can then pour into
Right.
later and
Right.
creating essentially doing their work for them, but
No, for
getting
sure.
access to these, fans that they may not have access to before.
And from a marketing perspective, too, it's just easy word of mouth marketing, right?
Yeah.
You get one auntie in, and she's gonna blast that word out,
Yeah.
to 500 other aunties, right? Because on the auntie network is strong, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So, alhamdulillah, that's great. Inshallah, you can keep on going and expand that to all
Inshallah.
the professional teams out there, right? Especially now that FIFA is coming to,
Yes.
the North America, right, this
Yeah.
year. So, hopefully, you have some good things planned for that as well, inshallah. So that's great. And I would love to continue that part of the discussion, but we're going to take it back a little bit to talk about you, right? About your early influences and what really got you into, helping shape the Muslim experience within sports. So could you tell us a little bit about like who were your mentors or your early influencers that kind of gave you guidance into getting to going towards the path that you're on right now?
Sure. So, I will say that my day job is not sports. I'm trying to make it sports, inshallah, one day.
Inshallah, one
But
day.
as of right now, it's not. But the way I landed where I am now, as I mentioned earlier, this was going on for 17 seasons. This has been going on for 17 seasons now. Obviously, I haven't been around for that long.
Yeah.
So it was actually started up by a couple of dads in the Houston area who just wanted to take their friends and family out for some Muslim family nights. And so in 2019, when I moved to Houston around that time, I was looking like, life. Like, I was like, "What am I doing? What do I wanna do?" Like, figuring all that out because my day job is in healthcare. It's a remote, alhamdulillah, position. It's flexible. I get to uh, do what I did for
Sure.
school, and then but I feel like a lot of the skills that you learn in, like, the project management space can be applied to anywhere. So
Anywhere. Yep.
yeah, so I'm using what I learned project skills management wise and applying it to this project planning experience in the sports realm.
Right.
But going back to the dads, they saw the so I just was like, "Hey, let me help volunteer for this one, and then if you guys feel comfortable enough, I love to be more involved." So I alhamdulillah ran that first one, and I guess they were either very impressed or just wanted to like stop doing it because they like, are past that stage in life. They just passed it on to me, so that's where I kind of got a hold of and ownership of the Muslim family night from the beginning. So it was, but I still to this day like this is gonna be my 7th one that I'm doing. Even to this day, every one that I do, I go back to them and get nasiha and get advice from them on, like, is there anything I could be doing? Have you guys done something before? Because I feel like there's so much value in people who have treaded this path before you and getting
You're right.
feedback from them and honestly, like, I maybe I see them once a year, but I still try to keep in touch because they're the ones who helped me open the doors to where I am now. So I would say that for my sports space, that's those 2 individuals were my biggest role models to get my foot in the door. But since then, there's actually not too many people in sports to for me to gain mentorship from, but I sought out different organizations and different people on LinkedIn that I thought resonated with what I wanted to do, and so I started reaching out that way and alhamdulillah created some relationships, and that's fast.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Inshallah, I think we need to get more mentors towards you
Yeah.
so that you can keep on going, right? What you're doing is amazing work and it needs to, a lot of people need to be on board with it so that the sports is huge, right? And it's almost an integral part of the Muslim identity for a lot of youth here in America, right? I know I can say that for myself. Grew up in Dallas. Football was a huge part of my life and, you know, lifelong Cowboys fan.
Yeah. How's that going
Matt,
for you?
wow. That that's a low blow. Okay. But, the, that sports experience, right? And that also, bleeds into video games and, hanging out with your friends and your social circles, right? Like sports kind of, I wouldn't say is a center of your life, as a Muslim kid,
Mhm.
but it's a huge part of your life, right? And it almost, that's a lot of the, especially the young athletes too, right? They spend hours in training and playing, for their school teams, and one day
Mhm.
hope to go professional, right? For a
Yeah.
lot of these young athletes. So making sure that the Muslim experience is not, or they don't have to choose between sports and being a
Yep.
Muslim, right?
Yep.
Sports and Islam, right? So absolutely, what you're doing needs to continue on, and we hope that more people, provide that same level of support across the country, inshallah, and around the world, inshallah. So I guess this goes to my next question about, like, where were there moments when your deen, your faith, helped kind of guide, some of the difficult decisions you had to make, during when you first started, or even now, right? Did you feel like there were moments where, I'm sure you did, but, like, were there moments that, you had to turn to, you know, to Allah to help
Yeah.
kind of guide you through?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, alhamdulillah, since I am in a space where I am pushing my faith forward as my like identity to do this job, there has been a lot of places where I've been challenged. And first, I'm like outwardly Muslim. I wear hijab, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
I'm always the one woman or woman hijabi person in all these sports conferences or even spaces that I go in. Because as I mentioned before, there's not many of us out there, especially Muslim women in sports. So I've always I had to like reflect on how I'm portraying myself and how I'm coming off because of course the media shows one way of Muslims. So I had
Yes.
to, you know, use my use my demeanor and use my personality as a way to offset to what they're watching and like, connect
Yes.
with people in
Yeah.
a way that showed that, hey, like Muslims are just you and me. I'm just practicing a different faith than you. So once I figured out how I needed to portray myself and, stay true to my values and, like simple things like hugging the male participant that you like are meeting with, right? Or like I have to tell them like, that's not what I do and things like that. So staying true to your values, backtracking. Once they see like for example, the one instance I had to do that, I was like, sorry, I don't hug people who I'm not related to. And then he like wanted to know more, and like was curious about it and actually respected it.
Nice.
So I think it's also a small way of dawah too, because they
Yeah.
might be feel comfortable asking questions like that before. But anyways, going back to just my faith in general, I think what helped me the most is just staying true to my values, figuring out what I wanted to do, and just sticking to it instead of like molding myself to fit what they wanted to
Yeah.
see, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a lot in sports and entertainment. Like, a lot of that happens. So I would, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. No. And so my follow up question to that is, like, were there unique challenges? Were there any moments where you felt like, as someone who's outwardly Muslim, hijabi, right? You're trying to do your work, and professionally, but, for one reason or another, they're giving you a hard time. Were there any are there any examples you can give that has happened, and what did you do when that did happen? Or it hasn't not happened
No,
yet,
I
right?
I won't say it, like, explicitly has happened, but I've also had places where I've, like, reached out and I'm like, "Hey, like, let me do this for you guys, you can engage with the Muslim population this way, XYZ," and they'll, like, give me an answer back, but I can just tell that they're just not ready for that yet.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so maybe pushback in that sense where they're, like, nice about it, not like, "Oh, we wanna work with Muslims," but you just have to kinda see where people are at and then meet them that way, and just realize that they may not be ready for it yet. So I wouldn't say it's been challenging, it's just been a lot of shut doors, but you have to be okay
Got
with
you.
it. Like, I have to be okay with that and continue to keep doing the work that I do because there are teams out there that are wanting to do this kind of engagement. But that being said, I feel like the sports industry is getting a lot better about diversity. So it's helped a little bit over the past couple of years. But if I would have done this work like, 10 years ago, I think it would have been totally different.
Much more, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, agreed, yeah. I'm sure it will take baby steps to get to a point where
Yeah.
a lot of baby steps to get to a point where we can finally see the true integration of, a Muslim experience within sports, right?
Yeah.
And for them to really feel comfortable without any prejudice or
Mhm.
judgment or bias, right? So that's great. And was there a pivotal moment that you felt like, okay, so first part of the question is, was there a moment where you felt like you weren't sure if this is really the path for you? And then the second part to that was that, was there another moment where you felt that, oh, I must keep on doing this because this is maybe, I think you did answer that question, but like, did you feel like I'm, you know, this is not just for myself anymore, but this is for everyone else
Yeah.
who's a Muslim.
Definitely the second part where I have realized, like, this is much needed, and, I've realized that, sorry, can you say the second part of your question?
Yeah, the second part was like, did you feel like, was there a pivotal moment, like at this point in time, I realized I need to, do my part in making sure that the Muslim experience in sports in general
Sure, sure.
needs to be redefined.
Yeah, so I have definitely gone up and down, like, it took me forever. So as I mentioned, I started Moss, the nonprofit, just to get, like, to honestly just do the funding part for some of these night outs because I did need some kind of way to, because I was getting sponsorships, or I do get sponsorships for some of these events from local business,
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
only to bring out people who may not have the chance to go out to games, but I wanna be able to provide them the experience, want funding to be a barrier. So that being said, that's why I created the nonprofit aspect of it, Moss, and, started that path. But then the idea of the consultancy actually came to me like 3 years ago. But at that time, I was like, "Okay, no one's gonna wanna pay me for this, and no one's gonna really wanna do this." But then I was on, maternity leave in beginning of 2025. I had just had my 2nd in January. And I was like, "You know what?
Mashallah.
I'm not like, I'm okay with what I do for my day job, but sports and this is, like, really what brings me joy." Like, I was, during maternity time, I'm not sure if you can relate with your wife, but I during maternity time, like, it gives you a lot of time to reflect. Like, right, you're leaving your kid, you have to go back to work, and so I was like, "I really don't wanna go back to work." Like, I that's I what I do on a daily basis doesn't bring me joy. Or it, alhamdulillah, pays the bills.
Alhamdulillah.
Um Sports is what brings me joy. Like, I was so excited to do all that work, and I was doing that work even while I was on maternity leave, right? Because it brought me so much happiness and joy, and seeing the Muslim Ummah being able to, do different things that they may not have access to do before, was really cool to me. So that at that point, I was like, "You know what? This is time." So, actually, one of my friends was doing life coaching at that time, or she still is, but she was, like, getting started. So, I was one of
Sure.
her, I was one of her first patient, or I guess clients.
Clients.
We walked through it, and I was like, "You know what? What am I waiting on? Like, there's no other moment than now." So that's why I finally took the step and created the consulting aspect of it. I will say I haven't been able to give as much time to it as I have been wanting to, just because it takes up time.
Yeah.
But also, alhamdulillah, I'm getting enough work coming in that I don't have to do as much outreach right now. But if I was dedicated like 100, like, this is my day job, I would be working on this 24/7, like outreaching to teams, like, hey, hire me because I do XYZ. Right now, teams are reaching out to me to hire, like, because they see something on LinkedIn or social media, like, oh, we want that. And then they come to me. So I haven't done the outreach myself, but it's growing. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. No, that's great. And the fact that they're reaching out to you
Yeah.
because they notice the impact that
Yes.
it has to.
That was the validation I needed to keep going.
Exactly, exactly. And alhamdulillah, the more validation you get, the more motivated you are to keep going. So, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of the work that you do, if
Honestly,
there's one?
it's the like, when I attend the events and attend it with the audience that I'm curating these events for, and watching them enjoy it and taking pictures and, just enjoying themselves and eating the food, using the prayer space, I was like, "Okay, everything I did was for a reason," and all of them are enjoying it. And even when they come up to me afterwards and, like, "This was one of the best," like, we go to games all the time, but this was the best one, like, of this season.
Yeah,
So those type of moments, alhamdulillah, really bring me, like, happiness that, I'm doing this type
that's
of
a
work.
full circle moment right
Yeah.
there for you, right? That this is what you were kind of working towards and working
Yes.
for. So, alhamdulillah, that's great to hear. So, switching over a little bit to the industry, if you will, right, the sports
Sure.
industry. What would you say are the biggest challenges right now that the industry faces when it comes to working with Muslims or or, just ethnic people in general, like what would you say is some of the most challenging parts of the industry right now?
I will say the sports industry is very, very close knit. People who are in a VP position or some kind of position have been there for 26, 20, 30 plus years. Like they just grow in their own team. They don't ever leave. So it's
Yes,
really hard to get in. So actually when my first maternity leave with my first child, I again was like, okay, I don't want healthcare. I want to go into the sports. So I tried to apply to every job I could during that time in the sports industry, and I kept getting rejected because they weren't seeing my vision of using my skills for whatever position I was applying for.
sure.
They were
Yeah,
just like, "Oh, healthcare." And also it's who you know. It's a big industry of who you know, what you know, and
absolutely.
all that. So I kept getting rejected. So I at that time I just stayed with my healthcare position at that time because just couldn't find a way in, which is why I started creating my own thing, the consulting part of it later.
Yeah.
But so that was I forgot your original question.
No, the question is the challenges, right? How many
Yeah, yeah.
challenges or what
So
challenges did you face? Yeah.
okay, yeah. So sports industry is very who you know, what you know, and we're trying to change that. And I'm especially trying to change that. So like and a lot of people now are not wanting to just become doctor, lawyers, and engineers, right? They want to do
You're
something
right.
different. And
Yeah.
so getting them access to these spaces is something I want to do and hope to do. And in terms of like a mentorship pipeline, there's actually a lot of Muslim executives in sports, and we're actually creating a community of us together, like an organization for the people who work in sports together to come give back to the people who want to eventually work in the sports space, also just to see Muslims excel in every space. So that's one challenge, but that there's a way that we're overcoming it is trying to create these mentorship pipelines. So it's very who you know. So I had to do a really, really, really concentrated effort on reaching out to people, getting them in my networks, going to the conferences, going to like the all-star weekends, going like just meeting people in person and telling them, "Hey, I'm interested in sports." Or and then now it's, "Hey, I offer this service. Can you like, bring me in for whatever you want to do?" So it is challenging to kind of get into the sports industry. I will say that people who go to school for sports and then end up in sports is usually the pathway there, but it's so hard to transition from like whatever you're doing and you're like if you're not in sports to sports.
Yeah.
I would say that's one of the biggest challenges I've seen. And I've actually also doing a really quick pitch for my friend here. She created a AI matchmaking platform for people in sports industries to match with people to then connect. So it's like a networking platform, but you get matched up with 3 people, 4 people, I think it's 5 people actually, that you connect with then for that week or you set up a meeting for. It's called Arena. You should check it out if you are interested in working in that space because you meet with people and then, you never know when that connection down the line may come in handy. Because again, it's who you know.
Absolutely, and thanks for the pitch right there. We'll definitely check it out. But I don't know, absolutely agree that the sports industry is one of the the many industries that's very hard to enter, and it's one of the industries where it's hard to get into the position that you want, right? Your so-called dream job, right, or dream
Yeah.
position. And so oftentimes, what a lot of people end up doing is just creating their own,
Yep.
you know, their own pathway, right, to be able to get to that, position that they want to work in and utilize the skill sets that they want to be able to serve the people in that in that industry. Same goes with the film as well, right? The media and media industry. It's very hard to enter like Hollywood and being, for example, being an actor, right? If you want to be an actor, it's oftentimes who you know, right? And that's how you get a lot of the big contracts and gigs, right? It's they pull you in rather than you going in yourself. So that leads to my next question about like when it comes to issues that you see either at your job or in the industry or the people you work with, how does one go about promoting accountability, and then how does one go about advocating for that level of accountability, right? If you see someone doing something wrong, what's the way, or how would you go about doing that within sports if you see someone doing something that's not professional and that's unethical? What would you do?
That's a good question. I don't know if I've experienced a space where saw someone doing something that they weren't supposed to be doing and just holding people accountable. But I think I would do whatever would do in any position, to be honest. In that case, like, just have a sit down and chat with them about, what I saw, what I thought happened and shouldn't have happened. And, just have an honest conversation with them and see where they're at. Maybe they understood something that we didn't understand or vice
Yeah.
versa. And if that doesn't work out, there's also ways to go above them. I always like to avoid that just, to keep relationships going. But I'm all about open communication and I will call
Yeah.
people out if I see something that I
Yeah.
shouldn't be seeing. And that's usually worked in my favor. I haven't, yeah, that hasn't, no one's
Yeah.
canceled me yet.
That's good. No, inshallah, no one does cancel you at all. But so I don't know if you heard, or maybe you did. There was a FIFA match between, I think it was between Holland and Israel,
Okay.
and I'm sure FIFA didn't do anything to cancel that match, right? Because Israel's committing genocide. But in that instance, right, if let's say, for example, FIFA decides to bring the Israeli team to Dallas for one of the World Cup games or something. I don't know. Is what's the appropriate response to that, or what should be done in that instance? And maybe not by you, but like at an organizational level. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would honestly encourage and invite everyone to voice their concerns about a country or Israel coming in and playing in something that in such a large world viewed match that everyone's watching because honestly, of course, what they're doing is like
Yeah.
yeah, everyone knows what they're doing and killing our Palestinian brothers and sisters. But that being said, I would honestly, even from my side, just organize the community to go out and just either one protest and also from my end work with or tell FIFA that what they're doing or what we're not happy with how this outcome is and something should be changed and you just put pressure on them.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like a lot of times that we don't voice our concerns and we just protest and not instead of which is fine, protesting is 100%, like, I would be there in the front lines doing it too, but also voicing our concerns to the top management, like, why this is why we're protesting, and going that route too and letting them know, like, there's actually a FIFA head of human rights on the, like, FIFA level. That's who I'm working
Hmm.
with a lot of my FIFA initiatives. Um 'Cause they put Muslim needs under human rights, which is fine. So that's who I'm working with a lot of on my FIFA stuff. But honestly, just having open communication with them about, what we're
Yeah.
seeing and what we don't wanna see.
And as you noted before, right, you said that you didn't see any examples of like, big issues such as that to come your way. But if let's say the Rockets decide to have a guest speaker who's controversial, right? Then I guess the appropriate response is to make sure that that guest speaker, whoever he or she is, it's not, they find a replacement for the guest speaker because,
Sure,
we
yeah,
want to be respectful, right, of
yeah,
the audience and the Muslims
mhm,
who would be watching,
yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
sorry, go
usually
ahead.
no, I was gonna say they usually know I think it's very important to build relationships with these types of organizations because of since I've been working with them for 5 to 6 years, they actually listen to what I have to say and ask me for suggestions, and when I bring someone up, like, it has happened in the past, they're like, "Oh, what about this person? Well, what about this person?" I was like, "Well, he doesn't or she doesn't fit with, our values and, whatnot." So, it's really important to have those really, like, high level relationships with them so you can be frank with those type of conversations when these kind of issues do come up.
And that's very important. That's very key. I'm glad you said that because, as you said, protesting is good. People should protest, right? And there are many different forms of protest. For example, going from the streets and then either you know going up to the president of an organization, or if you remember that girl from Microsoft, she went up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the stage and protested that way. That's another form of protest. Or leaving the company as a statement is a form of protest. While all those are good, though, what you said is important, right? Building positive relationships with from within, so that the change that you want to see at an organizational level does happen, right? Right. So, like you were saying, having a good relationship with, like, head of HR at FIFA, that's really important because then now they will listen to you and will take action appropriately to ensure that things like, you know, bringing a controversial guest speaker or having controversial teams, you know, play at the global stage doesn't happen, right? So I'm glad you said that. Besides, you know, so I know you said with the Rockets and the Wizards and some NFL team. Are there other professional sports teams or groups that have created positive change, for example?
So I do work with MLS, which is Major League Soccer. We have a team here in Houston called the Dynamos that have been doing a lot of work with us. But I think we've done 6 seasons with them. I lost count, but they
Nice.
actually saw like so how that happened was one of the Dynamo people who work there saw us do the shout out during halftime at the Rockets game, and he's like, "Whoa, I want to bring this to the Dynamo team." So that's how
Nice.
we got in plugged in with the Dynamos. They reached out to me and were like, "Hey, let's make this happen."
Yeah.
And again, like, I haven't had time to, like, reach out myself and do these type of events in other cities just yet, because it does take a lot of on the ground efforts, and I'm obviously not in every city. So I have to, like, coordinate and find people to coordinate with on the ground. So just because of time, I haven't been able to, but MLS is definitely a place where it's a global sports, soccer,
Right.
football,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially with FIFA coming. So I think that will definitely pop off soon with the different MLS teams across the US. And then NFL, I've worked with the Texans. I've actually was approached by a couple other NFL teams this season to do something for them for the next season. So inshallah, that's coming as well.
Inshallah.
There happens to be a lot more Muslim players in the NFL space, so that's a great way to, like, bring the player aspect of it and then also bring in the team audience aspect of it, and hopefully create something unique for our Muslims in those cities. FIFA also I'm working with in terms of creating prayer spaces and halal food in the different host cities. Because if they have, like, Jordan playing in one city and they don't have access to halal food, what are they gonna eat? Or, like, where are they gonna pray?
Right.
So they have to think of the audience that's coming into their town, right? So it's honestly, it's
Absolutely.
hospitality at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So I'm working with FIFA on creating those initiatives. I am looking at a couple other leagues. I actually have a meeting scheduled with them later this year or later this month
Nice.
on how to engage those populations as well. So one is baseball, MLB. They uh, historically don't have much of a Muslim following, but I think it's growing a little bit. So I'm gonna see how we could interact in that space. What was the other one? Oh, golf. Golf is also up and coming.
PGA.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Well, not PGA, but involving women in golf, Muslim women especially. So there is a organization out of the UK called the Muslim Golf Association, MGA, and they came out and did a whole workshop for some Muslim women here in Houston through the Aramco tournament that they had for the LGPA. It
Okay.
was really well received. So, we're
Nice.
trying to see if there's any, more space for golf in the Muslim space, 'cause it's a sport that anyone can play, you can wear anything and play. So, even, like, women who wear burqas can play golf, right? So, this one is
Sure.
more involving involving them in the actual sport instead of
Sport it.
watching. Yeah, but inshallah, maybe something's coming that way too.
Speaking of sport involvement, I know, alhamdulillah, there's a big push for getting more Muslim sisters within the sports
Mhm,
activities, right? So, like basketball is
mhm.
huge, golf, you mentioned, soccer, even, right? Um, is there anything you're doing right now, particularly to encourage more young Muslim sisters to get involved in sports?
Yeah. Um I don't have anything in my, organization that I'm working with, but there are a few partners that I work with that do focus on this. One being the Islamic Games. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
No.
there is an individual who basically goes to different cities across the US. It's actually really similar to Showdown, but with different families. So they do tournaments, with each other, to promote sports, movement and this stuff. So it's really fun. He actually just did one in Houston earlier last year. New Jersey's a big place where they do these type of tournaments. So getting them involved in that space too. And then, as I mentioned, we're creating this organization. And one thing that we addressed and wanted to see come to fruition in the future is creating a pipeline for kids. So if the kid wants to do sports, they're playing, they're pee-wee basketball, baseball, whatever, the community clubs, but then they wanna go play in school. So, okay, they play in school, then they do the high school level. Okay, then the recruitment comes for college level. Like, we don't do a good job, nor do our generations before us know very well how to navigate that entire process and pipeline.
Yes.
So, we want to create a way where we can naturally build them into this pipeline and push out more Muslim athletes to play on then maybe the professional level, right? There's a few in between that actually make it this now, but we want to see more because everyone plays on the school level, but they don't necessarily have the support nor knowledge on how to get to that pro level. So there's different initiatives that inshallah we want to put in place for that, but that will be in the near future. Hopefully by the time my kids play
Inshallah.
sports, so they can
Inshallah.
get college paid for through sports.
Right, right. Especially, I'm, I hope for at least one of my kids, they go down that path, inshallah,
Yeah,
and it will be set up for them by that time.
inshallah.
So this is all great conversation. Would love to continue, but I want to focus now on how we can get more people like you to do more of the work that you do, right? Because the sports industry is huge, right? And I'm sure you can't cover all ground, right?
Mhm.
All by yourself. So the first question in that regard to you is, what if someone wanted to start what you're doing, right? Where should they start essentially? Like, what is there any particular like resource or any, let's say, like a class they need to take or something to be knowledgeable at least to begin with? And then where do they go from there as far as applying that skill level?
Sure. So, also being a person who didn't go to school for sports or sports management or anything related, I did have to do a little learning myself on what that industry looks like, how the NBA headquarters work, how each team works. Like, that's a lot of reading and learning, self-learning about that whole
Yes.
process. So, in terms of references or places to go for knowledge, if you didn't go to college for it, honestly, just seek out that knowledge. Connect with honestly me, like I can be your reference if you want or anyone else that you think is in that space and just have a sit down with them and chat to them about it. But for me, it was a lot of self-learning on how the whole industry works and then also putting yourself in these spaces. So going to like the different activations at All-Star Weekend, going to the different activations at Super
Mm,
Bowl, going to different sports related conferences and interacting with people in that space to one build yourself up but also create those connections that come in handy down the line. So I would say that honestly, for sports, it's again who you know and what you know if you want to transition over. So learn, just keep
yeah,
learning.
sure. No,
You're always a
absolutely.
student. Yeah.
And there's always a huge emphasis on learning, right? Continuous
Yeah.
learning and understanding how the industry works, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it evolves, right? And as far as these activations and events, networking events, if you will, are there particular areas that it's concentrated? For example, like parts of Texas or the West Coast or New York. Are there particular areas where they have these more often, or is it does it happen anywhere around the US or
Yeah.
around the world?
So the conferences change up or where they're hosted, and so do All-Star and Super Bowl weekends. I mean, it's hosted by a different city every year. I will say though, a lot of the sports headquarters, like NBA headquarters, NFL headquarters, NHL headquarters, MLS, they're all in New York. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so most of the jobs do end up concentrating around there in person.
So corporate. So if to be more specific, corporate is in New York. All the other like outside of corporate,
Yeah,
but still
that.
within sports, that
Mhm.
rotates around. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah. And then of course, if you wanna be team specific, that's based on what team you end up in and which city you end up in.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And from your experience, are there certain teams that more Muslims, I guess, gravitate towards or resonate with more than others, or it's evenly balanced?
I feel like it's evenly balanced. I did learn yesterday that there's 6 Muslims that work for the Detroit Pistons. I think that's the most concentrated number of Muslims I've seen work for
That
any team.
might
But there are Muslims who work for different teams all over, and that's where we're trying to create this network of Muslims so we can pull from all of them. I know 2 Muslims that work at the Mavericks. There's one that work at the LA Rams. We're all over it. We're there,
all
but
around.
yeah, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Oh, that's good. And so definitely important to reach out to those folks to be able to learn more. If that's an area of interest for you, for someone to work in, then they should reach out to them appropriately, and yourself included, right?
Yes,
You're
yes. Happy
very
to
much
be
plugged in. Inshallah, alhamdulillah. For the young professionals looking to, enter the workforce for the first time or wanting to enter the sports industry for the first time, what's the biggest mistake that you've seen they make? Or what is a big mistake that one can make if they're trying to enter the industry? And how can they prevent that from happening?
Yeah, sure. I've seen some students who wanna get into the sports industry, but then they're very picky about what sports or what opportunities they choose. Because one thing about sports is, like, the turnover rate is also very high for, like, the entry level, mid-level positions.
Yeah.
So, like, you come in 1 year, but you quickly, can switch over to something else, but first you just need to get your foot in the door. So I've seen people who turn down positions just because they think it doesn't align with what they wanna do, but I promise you, you will learn something new in that position that you will apply or can apply to a future position. To just get your foot in the door is the hardest part. So I would say don't turn down positions or even internships or any opportunities just because it's something that you don't like. Like, if you've never watched a hockey game in your life, but
Yeah.
NHL, like Dallas Stars is offering you a position, essentially all sports corporately work the same. So go in, learn the skills, and then, 2 years, get your feet wet, go apply for positions in whatever sports you love to see then, and then, grow yourself that way. Just don't limit yourself, I would say.
Don't limit yourself.
Yeah,
No, that's a great advice.
yeah.
So going back to yourself, alhamdulillah, you're doing great work and I hope it continues on.
Inshallah.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind, uh, in the efforts that you're doing right now? What do you hope to see in like 20 years from now?
Sure. I definitely want to see more hijabis and Muslim women in general in these sports spaces because, again, there's only few of us in between, far in between in some of these spaces. Like, even when we had this whole preliminary meeting for the Muslim who work in sports, it
Yeah.
was 2 girls and like 20 men in that room. So seeing more Muslim women in sports would be a dream because then, it's just seeing more of us succeed in a space that might not historically have been a space for us. So that would be really cool to see 20 years down the line, but also just seeing more Muslims excelling in playing sports too, especially on the professional level.
Yeah.
I think we get so excited when we see a Muslim athlete, especially when he or she are doing something really cool and succeeding in their career in whatever sport they're in. We get so excited about it. Like Hakeem Olajuwon's a legend because of that, right? And then even now, many people have been looking up to Aziz Al Shahir because he's like, won did Man of the Year award for Houston Texans. He's been great at his defense lately. Just knowing that he's Muslim and also advocates for Palestine, like, openly, like, we Muslims get excited about that kind of stuff. So seeing more Muslims who stay true to their values and then succeed in playing sports, I think is something would be really cool to see as well in the future.
Inshallah, that happens sooner than later, right? But we definitely need to work towards all of that, getting more Muslim representation, more Muslim women representation within sports, and not only just represent, like actually playing the sport, right? Um, I think that's a huge accomplishment and milestone to achieve, inshallah.
Mhm.
So before we wrap up, I want to ask you, what are specific ways that people can support you, right? In the cause that, the movement that you're a part of, and the changes you want to hope to see. How can we help support you in that sense?
I appreciate that question. Honestly, just getting the word out that my services are available for anyone who wants to, take them to their team or if they know anyone in that space to advocate for me and what we do. And then honestly, just, connect and grow networks, I think is the biggest way to succeed in this space. So
And how can one reach out to you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
LinkedIn would be best because I'm historically really bad at replying to texts. But LinkedIn would be best, or I can also give my email. That's another great way to reach out to me. It's
Okay.
siraatstrategies@gmail.com.
See, that's easy to remember. Siraatstrategies@gmail.com. Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, Nimrah, thanks so much for your time here. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners that I haven't covered or we haven't talked about?
I think we covered a lot, so I appreciate you having me, Salman. And I'm excited to see this podcast and future podcasts and the work that you're doing as well.
Inshallah, inshallah. And
Yes,
thanks so much for, sharing your journey with us and your insights. It will definitely resonate with our listeners. A lot of it has resonated with me. So I know I'm inspired by where you work, alhamdulillah. So keep up the good work and Jazakallah khair. And to our listeners, we'll see you again, inshallah. All right. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for listening to the Tread Path podcast. You can find all the resources our guests mentioned in the Tread Path archive in our website, coffeeproductions.com, along with the links to connect with our guest speakers. If today's conversation inspired you or helped you in your own professional journey, we'd love to hear from you. So please leave us a review, share the episode with someone who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. May your treaded path be blessed and full of wisdom. Assalamu alaikum.